Now, all of this can begin to sound so lofty and noble that it ends up having the opposite effect than the one he intended. We begin to lose Jesus. He's already starting to drift back again heavenward into the rafters to take his place in the stained glass. For something has crept into our assumptions about Jesus, which makes it almost impossible to relate to him, not to mention love him. I say crept because it has not been a conscious decision. Few of the things that shape our actual convictions ever are. I think much of the creep has happened, ironically, as a result of our attempts to love and revere Christ. But crept in this notion has, and it has done great damage to our perceptions of him, our experience of him. It's the notion that Jesus was really pretending when he presented himself as a man. We who worship Jesus Christ hold fast to the belief that he was God, very God, a very God, as the Nicene Creed states it. The heroic actions of Jesus' life attest to it. So, when we read what we would call the more human moments, we feel that Jesus was sort of cheating. With a nod and a wink, we know what's really happening. Einstein has dropped in to take the first grade math quiz, right? Mozart is playing a measure in the kindergarten song flute choir. After all, we're talking about Jesus here. The guy walked on water, raised Lazarus from the dead. He never broke a sweat, right? But then, what do you make of that terrible sweat in Gethsemane? They went to a place called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took Peter, James, and John along with him, and he began to be deeply distressed and troubled. "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death," he said to them. "Stay here and keep watch." Going a little farther, he fell to the ground and prayed that if possible, the hour might pass from him. "Abba, Father," he said, "everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me." And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. Deeply distressed, overwhelmed with sorrow, anguished. This doesn't sound like someone cheating to me. He begs his Father with tears that this awful cup might be taken from him. Please, let there be some other way. He doesn't want to do it. Sweat like blood pouring from his tormented brow. He pleads with his Father, and then he pleads again, and then again. Does this sound like Einstein adding 2 and 2? Gethsemane was the most terrible sort of farce if Jesus was faking it. He was human. Really. You recall the famous story of his trial in the wilderness. Well, at the end of those 40 days of fasting, it says he was hungry. On his way into Jerusalem one morning, he goes to have a look at a fig tree because it says he was hungry. Many readers recall the encounter Jesus had with a woman at a well. The account says that Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about the 6th hour. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" Wait, Jesus was hungry? Tired? Thirsty? Yep, that's what it says. He was human. The Gospels are filled with beautiful and haunting descriptions of the humanity of Jesus. One of the most poignant takes place when the report reaches him that his cousin, John, has been guillotined. On Herod's birthday, the daughter of Herodias danced for them and pleased Herod so much that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. Prompted by her mother, she said, "Give me here on a platter the head of John the Baptist." The king was distressed, but because of his oaths and his dinner guests, he ordered that her request be granted and had John beheaded in the prison. His head was brought in on a platter and given to the girl, who carried it to her mother. John's disciples came and took his body and buried it, and then they went and told Jesus. When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. From Matthew 14. Jesus takes the boat, leaves the crowd behind, and sails to some place he can be alone. The man who has unceasingly offered himself to others needs to get away. He needs room to grieve, just as you would. I cannot say this more emphatically. Life affected Jesus. Let me assure you, I cling to the Nicene Creed and the Orthodox faith held by the Church for ages. Jesus was somehow God and man. A number of ridiculous books have been released in the last 100 years arguing that Jesus was merely a man. But a reaction in the other extreme is wrong as well. He's not Mozart playing with the kindergartners. This also helps us to recover his captivating personality in the Gospels. I've always wondered why Jesus, having healed someone, would immediately tell them to keep quiet about it. After giving 2 blind men perfect vision, Jesus warned them sternly, "See that no one knows about this." Warned them sternly? Now, why is that? He does the same thing after healing a man of leprosy. Jesus sent him away at once with a strong warning. See that you don't tell this to anyone. A strong warning, but isn't the point to get the word out? And wouldn't miracles be just the thing? These guys are the poster children now, living proof of Jesus' claims. Maybe he's employing reverse psychology here. Knowing that the more you insist people don't talk about what happened, the more they will. I mean, is this merely his technique to get the press going? It certainly has that effect. The 2 blind men went out and spread the news about him all over that region. The healed leper went out and began to talk freely, spreading the news. But wait, Mark goes on to explain why Jesus did this. As news of the miracles spread, Jesus could no longer enter a town openly, but stayed outside in lonely places. It is a sad editorial footnote. Jesus can't even get a moment's rest now. The paparazzi are everywhere. He doesn't mind a night of prayer on the mountain, but never to be able to get a bed and a hot meal? Jesus' strong warnings reveal his strong desires, very human desires. Please, don't tell anybody about this. He doesn't want to be forced to sleep in the woods. Now you might think that keeping Jesus all mysterious and heavenly is the proper thing to do. But consider this. When he came as presented in the Gospels. Okay? Very much human. A person, a man, with a very distinct personality. This is the primary witness we have of him, recorded for all who would know him. This is how he chooses to present himself. This is the self that he presents to us. Be careful that you don't push him away with your religious delicacies. You shall know them by their fruit. Jesus' humanity will cause you to fall in love with him all the more. His personality, his remarkable qualities, those we have touched on and those we are about to explore, they burst with color and brilliance like fireworks because of his humanity. Think of it. The man of sorrows had a sense of humor. The Prince of Peace could work himself into a lather. This wonderful counselor could be downright ironic. The man on a mission had time to sit and chat. Far from diminishing Jesus, this will only quicken your worship and deepen your intimacy.